I brought this cute little DNA Lego sculpture with me, a symbol of what we're doing, right? Working with many other individuals to architect Berlin's biotech future. I think Berlin is absolutely one of the top innovation ecosystems, also on the global stage, not just within Germany and Europe. So in terms of that scientific innovation and that basic academic and clinical research, tick. Berlin's got a lot to offer. There really is far too much competition and me versus you, I'm number one, haha, you're number two mindset when looking between the different geographies and cities here in Germany. But I would much rather we view each other as collaborators instead of competitors.
Will AI discover the next life-saving drug faster than humans?
This is not to put you against the wall here.
Of all of the medicinal products that were approved in the US market in that time frame, about 2/3 or just over 2/3 required external innovation. And so what that tells me is that collaborating with other people is really important to bring new products to the market for patient benefit. Can corporations help startups or do they slow them down?
Hello one and all, welcome to Unboxing the Future. I'm your host, Ian the Machine.
And I'm your host, Iva.
Berlin has always reinvented itself. And to focus on the last decades, it has gone from a playground for underground artists and hackers to the capital of science and tech. With talent, innovation, and investment in place, how is Berlin becoming the deep tech and impact business powerhouse? Well, this is what we're gonna be unboxing today with our special guest.
And our guest today is a gene and cell editing specialist, translating science, really cool science, into impactful therapies for patients. She's the director of CoLab Berlin, Ruth.
Whee! I hear people cheering.
Yes.
We made it for you.
That was a cute surprise.
Yeah. Welcome, Ruth.
Thank you.
We always ask our guests to bring an object that represents them professionally. Mm-hmm. What object did you bring and what is the story behind it?
Mm-hmm. So I brought this cute little DNA Lego sculpture with me. And actually, I'll tell you a little bit where it came from and then also explain the sort of connection to me and how I think this describes me and my personality and my career to date. But basically, so my role at Bayer is the head of Bayer CoLab Berlin. Mm-hmm. And Bayer CoLab Berlin is a brand new incubator facility for startup companies that we opened in Berlin just at the end of last year. So we had this beautiful big grand opening ceremony where we opened the doors. We invited lots of people from the local, but also German and European-wide ecosystem to come and check out the new facilities. And as part of the sort of swag bag, the gifts of goodies that we gave to everyone that attended, everyone got a DIY kit to make their own little DNA Lego sculpture. And we did this really intentionally because the sort of tagline for our grand opening was Architects of Berlin's Biotech Future. Because that is all what Bayer CoLab Berlin is all about. We want to work together with the right people from across different industries to turn Berlin into one of the best biotech hotspots around the globe. It's already great, but we think it can be even better. So we work together to architect, to build together Berlin's biotech future. So of course, you can see the symbolism already here, right? We've got the beautiful little piece of DNA strand. We've got the person, because everything we're doing now is about working with people, connecting across industries, across companies, finding the top talents to come together to architect. We've got the piece of scissors, which I think is a quite cute symbolism as well. It's about constructing. Everyone has an active role to play here. And I guess anyone that knows a little bit about gene editing might be able to draw the connection between scissors and DNA and cutting up DNA to cure genetic diseases. And so everyone got their own little gift as part of the grand opening, and this was mine, and I have it sat on my desk at work all day, every day, as a little symbol of the great event that it was, but also a symbol of what we're doing, right? What my role is now, working with many other individuals to architect Berlin's biotech future.
It's amazing, I love it. And can you make a sound with it?
A sound with it? Oh gosh, hopefully without breaking it too much. I can tap it on the table.
Yeah, let me check.
Is that enough?
Do it. Let me see. I'm not sure if we're capturing it.
Maybe try tapping here.
On here?
Yeah, I can hear that.
I can hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Such a cute... The guy have a mustache?
Yeah, everyone got a slightly different character.
Oh, that's cool.
And you never know who you got. And I got quite an angry
Yeah.
man with a mustache.
I have an idea also. Can
Yeah?
I try something?
Yeah?
It might be... Can you give me the pen?
My bad.
What do you think about that?
That's nice. Does it get picked up?
You have the microphone, you just do.
Oh, yeah. Like on the inside here?
Wherever you feel like, yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's cute. Nice. I can really
Yet
hear
another
that.
use case for the goodies you-
Musical instrument.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So I asked if you could do a sound with it because now we're gonna make music together. I'm gonna build a beat using the sounds of my body, voice, and everyday object. And then you and Eva are gonna join me with each one with its own object.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start.
Okay.
You can join me.
Good job.
Oh my gosh, that was fun.
Yeah.
First time I've ever made music with Lego.
And
Very
also something
nice.
that very much represents your field, which I think is
Exactly.
amazing.
Super versatile.
Very
eh?
cool.
Super versatile.
Oh, wow. Thank you,
now-
Diego, for leading us through that. That was
Yeah,
fun.
that was
pleasure.
fun.
That was a good warm-up.
If you want, you can take the headphones out now.
Yeah.
So you already explained this part of your intro and introducing your object a bit more, what you do and what your role is with CoLab. And one of the things we really wanted to talk to you about in general is also your just role in corporate innovation as a whole. But maybe to start with, I want to start with a couple of questions about the future. And first one, maybe try not to think too much, but will AI discover the next life-saving drug faster than humans?
Faster than humans? No, I think AI will work with humans to discover the next groundbreaking medicine or to develop the next wave of scientific innovations. I think AI definitely has a lot of potential to accelerate things. I mean, of course, it's amazing at combining so much information and knowledge and data and synthesizing out conclusions from that. So absolutely, it'll be critical. But I don't think it would do it on its own. It always needs that human element to cut through some of the noise and to ensure that the quality of what AI spits out really is the high quality that we need to develop medicinal products. So kind of yes and no. No,
Okay.
not in its own, but yes with humans.
So safe to say there's no risk for humans in that sense, like being obsolete.
I would say no. Maybe it depends on exactly the types of jobs or exactly what it is we're asking AI to do. I mean, if I think about my day-to-day, right, and probably it's the same for you guys too, a lot of the sort of very mundane, repetitive things that we do in our life, it would be great if AI could just take those off our desks, right, so that we don't have to do that. Write shopping lists or come up with a plan for your meals that you're going to eat next week, things like that. Sometimes there's a nice creative element to it that needs that human touch, yes, absolutely. But the physical act of like sifting through lots of recipes and writing a shopping list based out of that would be something that would be really nice if AI could take over. So there's some things that maybe AI will replace humans of, but certainly not everything.
In science, definitely.
In science, also the same. Exactly.
And maybe another one also very future-looking. What is the future of biotechnology?
Oh, the future of biotechnology. Now, that's a big question. And there's different ways you could answer that, right? You could focus more on the science and the technology. What do we think of the technologies that will really define the next decade of biotech innovation? One way I could answer that, and it reflects a little bit my career to date, is the area of cell therapies and gene therapies, right? You mentioned it in the intro. That is a new and somewhat emergent but already impactful field of life sciences, of biotech, where these really transformative technologies have the potential to not just treat patients, but really cure disease. So I think if we continue driving research in those areas and pushing for more innovations in the area of cell therapy and gene therapy, that really will be transformational. And so from a technological perspective, that could define biotech in the next decade or in the future. I guess a different way you could look about it, though, would be the sort of geographical footprint, the more human element to it. And I think there's a lot happening right now on the geopolitical stage, and I really don't want to go down that path. But I think acknowledging the global environment that we're working in, the rise and decline of different innovation ecosystems around the world, the strength of certain countries, I really hope something that defines biotech in the future is that globalization view, that collaboration across borders where people, top talent, humans, scientists, entrepreneurs work together across countries, because patients can't wait, right? Everything we're doing in life science and biotech is about developing new medicines, and a patient in the US, a patient in Germany, a patient in Kenya, they need the same medicines. So that globalization, I really hope, will be something that defines biotech in the future.
Very interesting. What is self-therapy?
Cell therapy.
Cell therapy. I understood correct. Wrong.
Yeah,
okay.
Cell therapy.
Okay.
Cell therapy and gene therapy.
Okay. Which is, well, literally what it says, right? It's focusing on, well, better you answer that instead of me.
I think you were getting there,
into the mud. Like.
Let's see what Diego picked up.
Okay. I don't have like the real knowledge about it, but by interpreting the name, I would guess that it's a therapy that is not so much focused on the disease or the consequences or the signs of a disease, but more into going check what's happening in the cell, right, and the DNAs.
Mm-hmm. Definitely in the right direction. Definitely in the right direction.
A B or A plus answer.
No, I mean, you're totally right in the sense that it's a type of therapy that focuses on cells. Absolutely. I mean, in simple terms, a cell therapy is a medicinal product that is made up of cells.
It's made up of
cells, as opposed to more traditional, but of course still very important medicines that are maybe made up of chemical molecules or biologic molecules. Things like antibodies, they're types of biologic molecules, and or lots of tablets that we take, right? Aspirin, ibuprofen, things like that. They're all chemical molecules. So the cell therapy is a medicinal product that's made up of cells. And a gene therapy is a medicinal product that either is made up of genetic material or aims to interact with and potentially fix, edit genetic material inside the human body. So it's really a sort of crazy, almost science fiction.
And where the cells comes from?
Yeah, good question. Very good question, actually, because that has all kinds of impacts down the line when it comes to the development of cell therapy products. But I think at a sort of simple level, there's mainly two sources of where cells come from, two different types of categories. They can either come from the patient themselves, So there are certain types of manufacturing processes out there, and there are medicinal products on the market today where the patient's own cells are removed from their body. They are manipulated in some way to make the cells more effective, more therapeutic. Really common example of that is a patient's own immune cells are removed, and then they're equipped with the functionality to specifically seek and kill cancerous tissue, cancer cells, and then those cells are delivered back to the patient. So that's one type, the patient's own cells. But then another type is this idea of off-the-shelf cell therapy. So one source of cells that can be used to make many different types of cell therapies, which can be administered to many different types of patients, hopefully around the globe as well. So two high-level buckets there.
It sounds somehow that it could be a very polemic topic, the origin of cells. How is it legislation-wise, and how is that, like Europe, for example, compared to US or other places on that sense?
I think with any new types of technologies, there is always that ethical, but also that regulatory discussion, right? Science develops something incredibly new where there's a really transformative potential for patients, and then the healthcare society needs to understand what the pros and cons of these new types of technologies are, and then evolve the regulatory landscape accordingly so that we can bring these transformative therapies to patients, but always in a safe manner, right? Patient safety is number one priority. And so you're totally right. This area of cell therapies and gene therapy has been pretty new on the global stage. There's lots of discourse, lots of conversations, lots of evolutions of regulatory processes and regulatory documents at the moment to ensure that these new types of technologies can be manufactured at scale, can be manufactured safely in a reproducible manner, and that they can be delivered to patients for effective therapies, but always with that high quality in mind.
Cool. I'd like to ask you a question that is the question basically that we're trying to answer in this season, which is the one that I did in the introduction, is Berlin has the innovation, has the talent, has the investment. How is Berlin becoming the capital of impact businesses, Biotech, deep tech? Like how is Berlin becoming this powerhouse?
I mean, maybe I'm biased, but I think Berlin is absolutely one of the top innovation ecosystems, also on the global stage, not just within Germany and Europe, but arguably also on the global stage for biotech innovation and life sciences innovation. And I think, I live in Berlin, I work in Berlin, I'm the head of a Berlin-based incubator facility for startups. So yes, maybe I'm a bit biased, but if you look at the data and the numbers and the market analyses that are done, Berlin consistently rates top for a lot of the key parameters that are needed to make an innovation ecosystem thrive and be self-sustaining. You mentioned some already, right? The talent, the science, the innovations. I mean, looking at the number of universities and research institutions, I think Berlin has like more than 40, something like that. Of course, there's the Charité, which is Europe's leading research university, hospital. So in terms of that scientific innovation and that basic academic and clinical research, tick. Berlin's got a lot to offer. But of course, the whole point of transforming scientific ideas into things that impact society, you need that entrepreneurial mindset as well. You need that environment where people feel like they can take these amazing scientific ideas and spin them out into startup companies. But also when you look at the number of startups in Berlin, again, tick. I think the Startup Verband, which is Germany's sort of broad network of startups and people who support startups, they do this report every year. They sort of look at the status quo, the health of the startup ecosystem in Germany. And their 2024 report actually showed that Berlin comes in second in Germany for the number of startup companies that are here. And it's a close second. I think Nordrhein-Westfalen came in first with about 19% of startups, and then Berlin came in second with 18.8%.
Interesting.
Very
I didn't know
strong.
Berlin wasn't the first one. I'm actually a bit surprised.
Very strong. Very strong. Exactly. It's really up there. And then, of course, you need the financing, which you mentioned as well, right? We need capital investment to sustain these new ventures that are spinning out of universities. And again, there, Berlin consistently ranks number 1 in Germany for financial investments. Of course, depending on the source of money, you can break that down. And there are certainly many other really top spots across Germany as well, like down in Munich and, of course, Nordrhein-Westfalen. But Berlin consistently ranks number 1 there for a number of different parameters. And then you need industry like Bayer, right? Experienced companies that are willing to collaborate with these young ventures, with these startup companies, advise them on how to really develop a medicinal product, which is a very complex and long thing to do. You need that governmental support and the policy environment that supports all of this innovation. And of course, Berlin, we're very close in proximity to policymakers and the local government here. So it ticks all of these boxes that you need for a thriving innovation ecosystem. So it's not just my personal opinion. I'm not biased there. Really, the data and the facts show that it is already a top spot for this.
So when you look into, I just want to ask you from a different perspective. So thinking just about startups in healthcare or health tech, which are the key things that Berlin gives them? Like you mentioned already quite a few, but maybe just to list quickly, you know, what are the key things that they need that Berlin gives them? Yeah.
Specifically in the healthcare area, startups in healthcare. Yeah. So healthcare is a really complex area, really complex industry to work in because it is rightly so highly regulated because we're talking about bringing new medicines to patients. So it's highly regulated. It's part of this definition of deep tech, which means significant R&D investment, long R&D cycle times. So it's not an easy feat and no one company can do it on their own. So collaboration is really key, and especially collaborating with the top scientists and the top entrepreneurs that can support that startup journey. So in that regard, Berlin has that to offer because there are so many amazing scientific researchers in the city working on a diversity of different topics that sort of talent, that scientific talent is here. A life science startup company definitely needs significant amounts of capital investment. As I said, it's not cheap and it takes a long period of time to bring new products to the market. So that capital investment is really important. And I mentioned Berlin has that too, right? Number 1 consistently in many different reports. And young startups, especially startups or founding teams that have never developed a medicinal product before, they definitely need the support and the advice and the collaborations and the guidance of experienced players in the life sciences field. And that's where big names like Bayer and other pharmaceutical companies, also larger biotech companies that have maybe gone through that and maybe have 1 or 2 products in the market already, that experience, that education, that mentorship, as well as that possibility for actual research collaborations is really important too. And again, Berlin has that.
It's incredible, Ruth. We could just finish the interview already. Like we got
so much insight.
We got all the nuggets, all the diamonds we wanted.
Okay.
I would like to switch a little bit the direction here and get into a topic that is also very important for the season, which is diversity. I'd like to ask, how diverse is your industry?
How diverse is your industry? I mean, that's a really broad question that could be taken from multiple different angles, right?
Or your field, if you want to.
Yeah. I mean...
it's very important. We describe ourselves as unboxing, unfiltered, untapped. So just put it out. And don't
hold back. It's okay.
Exactly. Take the stage, own it, go for it.
Go for it, own it. So how diverse is the life sciences industry? I don't know how it compares to other types of industries, right? So I can't really draw that comparison and say it's good or it's bad. But scientists by nature are curious people that travel the world and that want to be in the innovation hotspots, in the academic hotspots. They want to collaborate with the top minds. They have that real intellectual drive and they want to be surrounded by other people that also have that drive. So by nature, from a sort of nationality perspective, life sciences is definitely a very diverse industry. We also see that at Bayer. I mean, our pharmaceutical headquarters are here in Berlin. We've got a really cool campus there of around about 5,000 people. It is internationally a very diverse and really sort of metropolitan place to work. So I think that's inherent in the life sciences industry, probably in any area where there's that's based on scientific research. But then there's many other angles of diversity, right? It's not just nationalities. It's gender, it's sexual orientation, it's age, it's disabilities and diverse abilities. And honestly, I think we just have to look into the data and the facts to understand that a bit more. I wouldn't want to say anything conclusive here without knowing really what the situation is like today. But Bayer is really committed to ensuring that we have a workplace where every employee can thrive and can speak up and can have opportunistic career development pathways. And so driving DE&I initiatives, I personally think is something that's really important for any industry, and especially in the area of healthcare where we're developing medicines for diverse populations, right? We're not developing medicines just for white males that are aged between 40 and 50. We're developing such a range of different medicines for people that come from all walks of life, that having that diversity in your organizations, having that diversity in your clinical trials that you run, this is really important. It's really fundamental to success.
And it's happening in your field and your...
It's happening. Yeah, it's happening. Absolutely. I mean, diverse organizations for sure are really important. Diversity in clinical trials is also a really interesting and really important topic as well that not just Bayer, but many pharmaceutical organizations and biotechs are putting a spotlight on.
That's a good segue to another question I have, which is, what is the impact of diversity in your field?
The impact of diversity. I like that because I think it can be summed up in diversity of thought, whether it's the diversity lens of ages or nationalities or whatever. That diversity of thought is something that happens when you have different people around the table discussing together around a topic. And having that diversity of thought allows for different perspectives, it allows for a balanced conversation, and ultimately ensures that you can develop the right solutions to whatever complex problem or question it is that you're talking about. So I really think that diversity leads to diversity of thought, that leads to the best solutions and the better innovations and better economic development for society.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you very much. Yeah, and now we're gonna go to the questions out of the box.
Oh, okay.
So we told our community that someone from your industry would come to the show. And they sent us questions.
Oh Lord, okay.
And here they are. You pick one box and take one question out of it.
One box, one question.
Yeah. You're gonna go through all the three, so... Yeah.
Okay.
The order doesn't matter.
The order doesn't matter.
No.
I'll start in the middle then. There's different pieces of paper, so just take one of these. Okay. Oh, can corporations help startups or do they slow them down?
Oh, that's a good one.
That is a really good one. Okay, I could say a lot about this, but I'll try and keep it relatively short because we've got a lot of questions to get through. But I really could say a lot about this. So if we want to dig deeper, let's dig a little bit deeper later on. I fundamentally believe corporations can help startups, and not just help startups, but accelerate their journey. I think there's often that assumption in society, also outside of life sciences, in any industry, there's the assumption that startups and small companies are really fast and agile, and large companies are big, slow machines that take a while to get stuff done. And while I'm certain that there's a few examples of that, that's not true for everything. And there's definitely something to be said with having experience of developing a product, bringing it to the market, commercializing it, accessing global supply chains and understanding how to really bring, especially medicinal products to patients. There's definitely something to be said about having that experience. You learn from that. You've learned from what worked in the past, what didn't work well in the past, and you apply those learnings to everything new you do today. So absolutely, corporations can help startups. They do not slow them down, in my opinion. But of course, maybe we need to ask some startups there to get a balanced view on it, seeing as I'm working for a so-called corporation. But this is the fundamental belief of why Bayer CoLab Berlin exists, right? We're an incubator facility that wants to accelerate the startup journey along multiple different angles. So we have these beautiful, brand new, fully equipped and furnished labs and offices where the startup companies can exist as an organization. These incubators are embedded within our Bayer Pharmaceuticals headquarter campus here in Berlin, which means they get access to Bayer experts, Bayer know-how, Bayer talent. So mentorship and educational opportunities are great, especially for startups. You know, they might not have ran a clinical trial before, and we've got clinical trial experts on our Berlin campus. They can talk, they can catch up over a coffee, they can ask questions, right? And then another big thing of what we do is this ecosystem thing, we call it. So connecting our startups with all of the right collaborators and experts outside of the Bayer world that they can work with to help their company thrive. So that could be VCs and investors, it could be CROs and manufacturing organizations, it could be law firms and IP lawyers, whoever we have within our network that we think can really accelerate our startup tenants' journey. We want to drive those connections. So along all of these different pillars, right, it's a sort of comprehensive but also tailored support system to accelerate that startup journey. I really do believe in it. We've launched the facility brand new here in Berlin, but Bayer CoLab has existed for a couple of years already. We've got incubators in the US, in Shanghai, and in Japan, in Kobe. And we see success stories coming from that. We hear the feedback we're getting from our startup tenants. So can corporations help startups? Yes. Do they slow them down? I do not think so. In fact, I think we accelerate their journey.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and definitely in your field, it's, as you said, like it demands so much infrastructure, so much like connection,
Absolutely.
like legislation, that in that sense, definitely. It's,
Absolutely.
It's a cut
They
through.
need a hand-holding to navigate for that, if nothing else. Experience hand-holding.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tough industry to navigate from a regulatory perspective, but you said it too, the infrastructure perspective, right? The amount of money that you need to spend to just build a lab, to have all of these complex pieces of equipment, to maintain those pieces of equipment year on year, to have the infrastructure with all of the gases and the water and the liquids that you need to perform your research, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot. So we take that headache away from our startups by just creating this beautiful facility for them.
For sure. Let's move on to the next one.
Yes. Okay. Same box
no,
or
you change box?
different box? Okay. Then.
Take one.
Oh, this is a controversial one. Interesting. Will Big Pharma one day put humans before profit?
Oh, wow.
Oi, oi, oi. You've got some interesting listeners, no? Interesting people that you connect to. I believe that Big Pharma already today and has for many years put humans before profit, because that's what we do, right? We develop medicines for people. And if we're not developing medicines for people, then we're not having that societal impact. We're not living up to our vision. We're not bringing that benefit for society and for the healthcare systems around the globe. Every private organization also needs to focus on profit, right? Of course, you need to be able to have income streams to be able to survive as an organization and to grow year on year, to then invest that money into fundamental research to develop new medicines for patients. So will Big Pharma one day put humans before profit? I think we do now, and we have done for decades, for generations.
Yeah, it's a very controversial question. I would imagine that this could be inspired by, for example, what happens in USA, right? Like with the whole privatization of a health system, like a guy going on the street and killing, like shooting the CEO of one insurance company. So I guess probably can come from all that part, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I'm not gonna...
It's not black and white, right? It's not black and white.
But
And
it comes down to countries and their regulations and their healthcare systems.
Exactly.
So.
And also the idea is not to put you against the wall here, working for a big corporation like now. But so let's move on to the next box.
Okay,
One more.
let's move on to the next one.
One more.
My opinion's clear there, but yeah, It's a complex topic.
Oh, yeah.
That definitely requires more discussion, but not just with me, right? It requires discussion with many different people, different perspectives on that one. Then, third one. Ooh. Oh, I didn't know how to answer that. Okay, what's the biggest myth about working with Big Pharma? What's the biggest myth about working with Big Pharma? I'm thinking back to when I transitioned out of academia and moved into industry, which was around about 6-7 years ago now. And what did I think about back then when I was moving into industry? What did people tell me were the things to watch out for when I move into a pharmaceutical organization? The speed thing that we spoke about earlier, that was definitely one of the things that came up a lot, but we chatted about that already. I think another big thing that came up a lot back then was the perspective that if you work for Big Pharma, you essentially just become a cog in a machine. So you lose a little bit your own creative passion, your own decision-making. You just do what the person who's one step above you in the reporting line says, and they just do what the person one step above them in the reporting line says, et cetera, et cetera. And you just become, this cog in a machine. I don't know if that is still a myth today. I hope not. But having worked in the pharmaceutical industry for 6-7 years now, I can say that is absolutely not true.
Oh, wow, really?
It is definitely a myth, and I actually don't know where it comes from, to be honest. There is so much creativity, so much equality in decision-making, so much of perspective. I mean, to what we said before around diversity, bringing different people around the table to discuss topics jointly together, that diversity of thought is really important for creative solutions. And so this idea that you're just one cog in a big machinery and you lose all of your autonomy as a human being is absolutely not true.
Interesting. I feel like that's actually a myth that's for all the corporate companies.
Probably, actually. Yeah, probably. It's probably not unique to pharma.
A positive answer to that.
Yeah.
I'm happy for a positive experience. Great. Awesome.
Okay, let me pick up the boxes.
Yeah, sure. 1, 2, 3.
Nice. I like this trick with 3 boxes.
Yeah.
But I want to, you already shared a lot about CoLab and what CoLab in Berlin does and what you guys offer, particularly with the facilities and with the network, with the ecosystem. But maybe just, line by line, what is the offering for the startups? If a health tech startup wants to get into CoLab, this is what you offer them.
Line by line, I like that. So number one, it's the physical facility itself. So the labs and the offices, which aren't just 4 walls with maybe 2 lab benches in it and a cabling in there for you to get your internet and sort it all out yourself.
Sounds like old school co-working.
Right. These are brand new, fully furnished, beautifully equipped facilities where we really thought a lot about the design of the facilities so that the office wing is a co-working space to encourage conversations and connectivity between the startups because we want to build a community of entrepreneurs and scientists. But then on the lab side, we've got individual, exclusively rentable lab pods, which are completely soundproofed and lockable to protect that sensitive information that each startup is working on. So it's, number one, the facilities that have a lot of intentional design behind them. Number 2, it's the expertise, meaning Bayer expertise, the mentorship and the guidance we can provide our startups. And that is really tailored as well. So whatever scientific or manufacturing or regulatory or clinical or commercial question our startup tenants have, they will come to me and my team and they will ask us these questions, and we will use our broad network across the Bayer organization to find the right experts that have experience in those areas that they can connect with one-on-one or in small team meetings or for maybe a workshop one afternoon and dive into those topics and support the startup with that mentorship. So number 1, the facilities, the environment. Number 2, the expertise from Bayer. And number 3, I said it a little bit beforehand, the ecosystem. So connecting our startups to other companies, other people, other organizations that can accelerate their journey, can drive new collaborations, can help them secure new rounds of financing, can provide them with IP and law advice, whatever it may be, we will connect them. So I like to think of it on those three lines, the environment, the expertise, and the ecosystem.
Yeah, coming from all three angles that it's needed.
Exactly.
Maybe to stick a little bit on the last one about the ecosystem. So considering these are health tech startups, and you already mentioned in a couple of your answers, the importance in Berlin, where we have, scientific institutions, whether that being academia, research centers, but then also pharma companies like Bayer. How does your ecosystem look like? Like, what are some of the key partners that are there for the startups and for the development of this product?
I really like that question. I love that, actually, because I view it in a really intentional way. What we're doing here in Berlin is we're supporting startups to grow locally, to support the overall growth of the Berlin innovation ecosystem. But to be successful with that local growth, we need to connect globally. We don't work in a vacuum. I really don't like silos. So it's about supporting startups to locally drive forward their innovations by connecting them on the global stage. And they are being a global organization, but also CoLab being a global network of incubators with our footprint in the US, China, and Japan. We can provide our startups with that global connectivity. So if they want to connect with some local experts in China to learn about how to run a clinical trial in that geography, we can connect them. If they want to connect to the VCs and the investors in the US, especially in the Boston-Cambridge ecosystem, which is where our CoLab is located, we can connect them because we've got teams on the ground that are fully embedded into those innovation ecosystems. So it's a bit about what you said, right? The academic experts, the scientific minds here in Berlin, but also supporting within that global ecosystem.
I love that there seems to be like a red thread in everything when it comes to like healthcare. One of the first things that you said earlier today was that you're building medicine, or you're providing medicine and therapies that not necessarily just for us living here in this country, being of certain age, but also cross border, it should be for everybody, right? So even on the topic of who is it for, and I guess also from the startup perspective, particularly what it needs is also access to all of those markets as well, or facilities. Yeah, very cool, very interesting. Maybe a bit broader one, why are corporations actually partnering up with startups in this case? Why aren't they just developing their own? Or embedding them, or in this case, why is Bayer partnering with startups?
I think the idea of collaborating and partnering with external people, something that's sometimes called external innovation, that's something that's fundamental to any industry, any company, any large pharmaceutical organization. But why do we do it? Actually, there's quite a nice piece of data that suggests why it's really important to collaborate with others. And it's a piece of data that says of all of the medicinal products that were approved in the US in the last, I don't remember exactly what, but let's say 3 to 5 years, something in that time frame. Of all of the medicinal products that were approved in the US market in that time frame, about 2/3 or just over 2/3 required external innovation. And so what that tells me is that collaborating and not just doing something entirely on your own, collaborating with other people is really important to bring new products to the market for patient benefit. So I think that explains why collaboration is really important, not just for Bayer, but for many other companies working in life sciences. And then to your question specifically for startups, right? A lot of startups are risk takers, right? They're bold entrepreneurs with really amazing scientific ideas. And they are the geniuses that developed this new scientific concept, or that discovered this new scientific concept, or that developed this new technology. And so it makes perfect sense to connect with that top talent, right? To go where the scientific ideas are coming from, to go where the IP and the patent portfolios are built. So that collaboration is really key. And I think for Bayer, we like to do that not just at the startup area with Bayer CoLab, right? That's our incubator and accelerator offering for very young startup companies that are typically sort of pre-seed to Series A round of financing. But then we collaborate with organizations at all levels of maturity. So we have within the organization an impact investment arm of the company called LEAPS by Bayer. They invest financially in startup companies as well, and they support them strategically also with their journey. So you can think of Bayer CoLab supporting really young startups. LEAPS by Bayer is another way that we continue to support sort of mid to late stage startup companies. And then we have our typical business development organization that engages in collaborations in all kinds of ways, right? Research collaborations, in-licensing, out-licensing, acquisitions, all types of different partnerships and licensing deals is what they work on. And that's for a range of different companies of different sizes, also with academia as well. So academia, young startups, biotechs, large organizations, whatever it may be.
So let's say I'm a young startup in healthcare and I join CoLab. Am I already losing some shares? Am I already losing, like what am I giving in to get access to all of these amazing things that I need being a young startup healthcare?
Yeah, no, Bayer CoLab is a completely no strings attached model. So we don't take any shares in the company. We don't demand any rights to the technology or the programs or the IP. And that's really intentional because we truly believe that flexibility is key at this very, very early stage of innovation. We all know how science is. You have a hypothesis, sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And along the journey of startups, you often need to pivot, right? You start off with this amazing technology and you say, I'm going to apply this technology to diseases A, B, and C. You then start doing your preclinical research and you realize something didn't quite fit there or something's not quite working. So you need to pivot your pipeline and you need to grow your organization accordingly. And so that flexibility is really important for the startups as well as for Bayer. We hope and we do believe we would be the right partner for our startup tenants in a number of different areas. That's why we accept them into CoLab. It's actually a very strict application process. We have a global selection committee and we only bring in startup companies that are doing something really cool that fits to our own research interests so that we can provide that mentorship. So we hope and we do believe we're the right partner for a lot of what our startup companies are doing, but we want them to thrive in their own right as a company. So completely no strings attached business model.
Sounds beautiful. So healthcare startups, make sure to consider CoLab.
Yeah, totally. And perfect segue to my question, which is, what are the 3 points that startups should pay attention if they're looking forward to collaborate with corporates like Bayer, for example?
3 things startups should think about when looking for pharma partnerships.
We could focus on pharma because that's your expertise, but if you also keep it broader, also maybe would be also interesting in the sense of I'm a startup, I'm looking forward to collaborate with a big corporation like Bayer, for example. What are the 3 points that I should pay attention because I know the corporation also will be interested in knowing, you know, like you could use even your selective process to somehow pinpoint this.
Yeah. First and foremost is what's the problem you're trying to solve here? And in my role, I speak to a lot of startup companies. I listen to a lot of pitch presentations. I read a lot of non-confidential decks. And it is surprising the number of startups that don't really communicate why they're doing what they're doing. And I think it's okay, right? A lot of founders of startup companies, they're first-time founders, they're amazing scientific and academic experts that come straight from the university and found their own company. So they need a bit of training on that storyline perspective, and they need a little training to understand how does their cool scientific idea really impact patients or society. But really think about that. What is the problem you're trying to solve? And then secondly, how will your new innovation, your technology, your product, how will that really solve that problem? How will that meet the needs of patients? So those are 2 things to really focus on. That's the foundation of any pitch presentation. That's the foundation of getting any interest from pharma, from VC, whoever, right? What's the problem you're trying to solve and how will your solution solve that problem, also in a differentiated way, right? What sets you out from the rest? What sets you out from the competition? And then I think the third thing that a lot of people don't actually include in their pitch presentations or don't include in the emails when they reach out via LinkedIn or via other formats is they don't really communicate what it is they want. They just say, hey, we're a new startup. We've got this really cool technology. We think it will, heal this many patients and we think it has this much financial potential. It'd be great to connect. It'd be great for us to talk with you about it. Sure, we can just chat, but we're all busy people. We've got full schedules. What's really the need that you have here? Are you looking for a research collaboration? Are you looking to join the Bayer CoLab incubator? Are you looking for financial investment and we can connect you with our partners? What is it you really need? Because without that clear ask, honestly, it's hard to know how to engage in the conversation. We need to know what it is you need so that we can engage effectively and also find the right person within the organization to engage effectively with you. I won't be the right person for all of the reach outs we get, so I can connect to the right people within Bayer, but only if you tell me what it is you need.
Yeah, very, very interesting, very on point. It's interesting that you said that. We already had another guest that in a different context also said that. Know your give and know your ask.
Yeah, exactly. Know your give and know your ask. Mm-hmm. That's a great way of explaining it.
Yeah, Delphine Rousseau said that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like such a, industry agnostic completely, a challenge of knowing, also understanding your problem well and, how you're addressing it and kind of circling around that. Like for a while I worked in a design agency, and there really you could see, how many get that wrong, right? And this is what we would often do, which is like help them identify, then you really need to figure out your problem actually,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that selection process to CoLab, as I said, it's quite rigorous. We have a global selection committee. We look into the science and the quality of the data. We look into the scientific idea and the potential impact it has for patients. And part of that journey, of that mentorship that we will give to our startups once they join our community, is we will guide them on that storyline. We will guide them on how to develop the right pitch presentations to secure the next round of financing with VCs. No one's perfect from day one, especially when you're a really young startup that just spun out of academia a year ago and you're first-time founders and you've never done this before. That's okay. We get that. It's a conversation and we want to support startups in that journey. So it's all part of that mentorship we want to give them.
I love that, and that's a perfect segue to my next question. It's so nice when the story is like aligning. Makes me very happy about the set of questions we have. But thinking about the investment and startups in biotech and health tech, you already mentioned the sheer volume of investment they need, and it's a different type different ask from an investor. Compared to, let's say, just a SaaS solution, it's not like you're going to see a return on investment in, 1 year. No, there's probably a much longer process. But maybe looking from that perspective, is Berlin a good place for biotech and health tech startups to actually acquire investment? Can they reach the right context from here? Can they have the right conversations from here?
I do think so, because there are a lot of VCs that are based here in Berlin. There is a lot of really good grant opportunities to secure non-dilutive money here in Berlin. There's a lot of really strong investment banks that are here in Berlin. So I do think Berlin is a good place to be. And as I said before, it is often number one in Germany for the amount of VC capital that flows into this city to fuel the startup field. But I think what I also really want to say, maybe this is a little bit contradictory to some things I said before. I spoke a lot about how strong Berlin is an innovation ecosystem. The science, the entrepreneurial mindset and the number of startups, the finances, the industry, the policy. It's got all of those things that you need to have an innovation ecosystem. But I don't want to encourage this idea of competition between different cities and regions and geographies within Germany, but also across Europe. I think there's far too much siloed thinking, especially here in Germany. Being non-German, maybe I can say that a bit more freely than Germans can. But there really is far too much competition and me versus you, I'm number one, haha, you're number two mindset when looking between the different geographies and cities here in Germany. A little bit of healthy competition is always good, right? That helps us to do better, right? Exactly. Pushes us further. That's okay. But I would much rather we view each other as collaborators instead of competitors. Because again, this is a global stage we're working on. We're not working in an isolated vacuum of Germany. We're working as Berlin and NRW and Munich and all of these cities, Hamburg. We're working within a global environment. And so if we could just collaborate much more, that would be much more successful. And your point was specifically around funding, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yes, there's a lot in Berlin. So yes, that should definitely be an attractive point for startup companies to found their companies in Berlin or to relocate to Berlin, absolutely. But what will be even better is if startup companies that are based in Berlin can access pots of money that's down in Munich, can access accelerator programs and educational opportunities in NRW, can access networking events up in Hamburg. That connectivity is much more important.
All about cross-border, no border needed.
Yeah.
At least for innovation and definitely for life science solutions.
I'd like to add another, change the perspective on the question is, how is the scenario for investors to invest in Berlin nowadays?
You know, you'd have to ask an investor that question. I might not be the right person to answer that. But how is it for investors investing in Berlin these days? You know what? I'll take it from the ecosystem viewpoint again.
Exactly. What is here to be offered to the investors?
Exactly. And there's a lot, right? There's a lot of really top talent coming from these academic institutions. There's a lot of really strong clinical research. A lot of what, of course, is being driven and ran by the Charité. There's a lot of support for startups to help them thrive and to accelerate their journey from law firms, from pharma industry, from networking organizations, and almost like grassroots community groups that are here in Berlin. There's a lot here. So I think if investors were investing in a startup in Berlin, they'd be placing a good bet that that startup really can thrive.
Good, very good. So Ruth, now is the time for the questions out of the guest book. So we have a guest book.
Okay.
Every guest that comes leaves a question to the next one without knowing who is the next one. You're gonna also leave one after.
Cool.
So open where there's the paper and read the question.
What does creating real impact through innovation mean to you? Comma, beyond the buzzwords. I like that little addition. Very important. I'm probably working in corporate. I probably use a lot more buzzwords compared to the average out there. So fair. I'm happy to be called out on that. But what does creating real impact through innovation mean to you beyond the buzzwords? And I think a word in this question that speaks to me most is real impact. Of course, impact, but real impact, right? What does creating impact that really makes a difference to society mean? And I'm working in healthcare. I'm working in the field of developing new medicines for patients that many of whom don't have many other options available to them today. So creating real impact through innovation to me means that we can develop brand new technologies and brand new healthcare solutions that change patients' lives. It's as simple as that. I hope that's not buzzwordy, changing patients' lives.
Not yet,
That's what it comes down to.
It.
We can make it buzzwordy.
There's always an option to...
Let's just use it to become a buzzword.
Hashtag change patients' lives. Amazing, it's very nice.
Yeah, thank you.
This part is called rapid fire questions.
So
okay. It's a bit, quick, think on your feet,
Okay.
What are 3 lessons that you've learned working on the intersection of startups and corporates?
Listen, don't assume. Speed is everything on both sides. And try to find the common ground of what you're both working towards.
Nice.
Very
You
good.
shot that very well. Second question. What is the biggest achievement you're proud of, the work done at CoLab?
A couple of weeks ago, our first startup company moved into the facility.
Oh,
They're called Myopax. They have the keys to the facility. They're officially a tenant on our Berlin campus. So I'm really, really proud of that.
Beautiful.
What advice would you give to someone starting into impact sustainability business now?
What advice? Follow your passion, which is maybe a bit buzzwordy, maybe a bit vague. But as we said before, long life cycles, lots of failures in this industry, navigating complex regulatory scenarios. If you don't love what you do, it's really going to wear you down. So find that thing that really drives you.
Amazing.
Beautiful. You did so well with the rapid fire. Congrats.
We should have done the whole interview rapid fire.
Was it rapid enough?
Yeah, totally.
Super sharp on point.
Good.
So now I'm going to invite you to become my guest producer.
Oh.
So we're going to produce an electronic beat from scratch right now. That's going to become the soundtrack of the episode. So every time there's going to be a music, it's going to be this one.
Oh God, so I better not mess it up.
No, don't worry.
You can. Diego is such a good guider.
No, or that's just what it is. We don't judge it. You know?
I never played a musical instrument as a kid, so this is not my forte.
No,
Just
don't worry.
played your Lego DNA
True.
set, so
Yeah,
I
bring
think
it
you're a
close
pro
to
by
you.
That I
you
did.
know?
Yeah,
Put him
boom.
here.
So the first thing is to choose let's put the headphones.
Okay, yeah.
So the first thing is to choose the BPM.
Little bit faster.
Yeah?
Just a little bit.
Oh, wow.
I don't really know what's coming, so I might regret that decision later.
Well-
Because I don't really know what decisions come next. But
There's something super interesting that I love about producing music. It's that it has a very beautiful parallel with starting any project or starting a business, which is you have to have a vision. You have to be humble to recognize that you made a mistake and you step back and then you review and redo it. So no stress. We're just gonna if we did
Good.
something that is not serving the purpose, we can always come back.
pivot.
So you said quicker.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah?
nice.
Cool. Should we start with rhythms, with drums, with bass, with chords?
Chords.
Yeah? So now I'm gonna play the sounds. You're gonna tell me which sound you like it, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Oh,
You like this one?
yeah, do that. The one just before? Yeah, I like that one.
Okay, so.
That's fun. That's fun and upbeat. Yeah. It's got a nice energy to it.
Okay, cool. We have the chords. What is next? Drums, bass.
Drums?
Yeah, cool.
Let's go with drums.
So now we're gonna choose the sound of the drums.
Well, that last one was a bit too aggressive.
Yeah. So these are the kicks. You react good to this one.
Yeah, that one's quite nice. I'm not really thinking if it fits with the rest that we've done so far, but
We're
I
gonna
like that.
discover, yeah,
Then
so-
we'll find out. Yeah, maybe. Oh my gosh, there's so many options.
Yeah.
Oh, that last one was quite nice. Yeah.
Okay, so let me do the kick first.
Yeah.
Would you like to have it like this? Or more like groovy?
More groovy.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really nice.
Okay. And then we said this one, no?
Yeah, that's fun. Yes.
Yeah, well chosen.
Oh, you're a genius.
Well, you're composing.
You are. I'm doing nothing. You're doing it.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Okay. What else can we put it? I think it's missing a little bit of, no, some.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wait,
This is nice. It's
You like this?
Really funky and upbeat.
This?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's put it. And then we can do.
Exactly.
Now, let me. You like it?
Yeah?
I like it a lot. I think it would be nice if you said something, right?
Vocal.
Yeah.
Said?
Yeah, you say
Yeah,
you
not
say
sing,
something.
right?
If you feel like singing, you're welcome to. But you can, also
You can
just
sing, of course. You can always sing, of course.
But say what?
That's the 1 million question.
Yeah.
So, say talk there.
Hello?
Yeah, it's your. Okay, perfect.
Maybe remind me the purpose of this again. So I
Of the
say
episode
something
or of
appropriate.
the singing?
Of the whole song.
It's gonna be the song of the episode.
It's the soundtrack of the
of the
episode.
episode.
Just let it flow. Don't overthink.
Collaborate. Don't compete. Collaborate. Don't compete. Collaborate. Don't compete. Collaborate.
Don't compete. Collaborate. Don't compete.
Amazing. I just realized that
You turned me into a man. That's
we're-
brilliant. I love it.
we're missing the bass. Just realized we don't have the
Yeah,
bottom.
true.
So choose one.
The one before. Oh, that was quite nice what you just did. Yeah, that's quite fun.
Yeah, let me see.
Would that
Collaborate.
match?
Don't compete. Collaborate.
Yeah,
Very
Don't
spacey.
compete.
yeah.
Collaborate. Don't compete. Collaborate. Don't compete. Collaborate. Don't compete.
Okay, let's go.
Collaborate. Don't compete. 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 Collaborate. Don't compete.
Amazing. We have it.
I never knew it was so quick to just put together something like that.
Well,
That's
when
so
there's
fun.
more than one people thinking, it's much easier.
Yeah, exactly.
Collaboration, as you
Diversity
said.
of thought.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Because I could have spent. That's why this concept comes exactly from that. I would spend my whole life thinking this sound, this sound, this sound. Well, you just tell I like this one. No argue. This
Done.
one.
Exactly.
Perfect collaboration.
Absolutely.
So now I will ask you to take the other box.
Can I take the
No,
headphones off or not yet?
No, you stay with it.
Stay with it. Okay.
So you put it there. And you're gonna open it. You're gonna choose one for you.
I'll put it there. Yeah. Oh Lord. Okay. I want this one.
Perfect. So pass the box to
Pass
Iva.
the box. Okay.
Thank you.
You were brave enough to get it. Cool.
I just really wanted to know what is it. And then as I touched it, I was like, well, now it's mine.
So,
You can like turn it
What am I
upside
supposed to
down.
do with it?
so this is actually just a funny effect. Is
Perfect. That's me.
cool.
so
now what we're gonna do? We're gonna jam
Okay.
over the music that we just did, and that's
okay.
our grand finale.
Yes.
Grand finale. Oh, that went quick.
Yeah, very quick, very good, amazing. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
Collaborate. Don't compete. Collaborate. Don't compete. Collaborate. Don't compete.
It keeps on going.
Thank you very much.
That was the
Ruth.
star of the
Super
show
nice.
this month.
This is a
Absolute
beautiful.
star
I
of the
just want to
show.
know, like, where did you get this?
It was a present. Someone gave it to me.
Wow, beautiful present.
Brilliant.
Ruth, thank you so much for your conversation, for your time.
Thanks for having me.
We learned so much about life science, about opportunities and needs for the startups in health tech, but also in deep tech and beyond. And we actually debunked one of the biggest myths in working with corporates, which is they're not as burdening and as slow to start up. So
Not at
thank you
all.
again for being candid and for sharing everything with us.
You're very
Thank you
welcome.
very much, Ruth.
Thanks for having me. It's been really fun. I think I need to start every week a little bit like this.
Yeah.
How energizing.
We're glad to hear
Everybody
that.
needs one of this in their
Exactly. Exactly. No, but thank you very much. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Our pleasure. And see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Collaborate. Dopamine.